welcome back, everybody, to another episode of your favorite podcast. You've got Angelo and myself here again, Samuel. If you have been regularly with us, we've been talking a good bit about identity. And today, I am most likely going to be interviewing my friend here, Angelo, quite a bit about this group's identity. We've been thinking about recently, what is our origin story? You know, if you're a fan of the comic books out there, and we'd like to talk and regroup. And as a group, we've been doing this ourselves about what is our purpose and how did we come to be. So there's your intro. How's that, Angelo?
That's a great intro. That's a great intro. You've definitely done this before. You lied to me. You're like, I've never done a podcast. So yeah, I'm down. That's cool.
I'm just a natural, I suppose.
I love it. I love it. That's good.
So go ahead.
I love this idea of the origin story, right? Because, I wasn't a huge comic book person, reader, whatever.
Me neither.
Growing up myself, I thought they were cool, but I just never really got into it, or I never had the opportunity to get into it. But there's a lot of people who are. And when they talk about the origin story, I think a lot of people, even if you're not a comic book reader, kind of get a little excited. It's kind of like, oh, what is the origin story? Like, how did this person become this bad guy that wants to destroy the world? Or why does this person all of a sudden want to save all these people?
Hopefully we're not the bad guys.
Hopefully we're not the bad guys. But you know what? What did they say I think it was in Batman, like, you either live long enough to become the bad guy or something. I think the Joker said something like that. And I'm like, I got that much later in life, and I'm like, dude, wisdom. So your question is, what is our origin story?
Let me start with this. I would like to see if you would mind working in a little bit about when you and I were connecting years ago, before this thing started. You had a dream. You told me about a dream, and I have a feeling that's connected to this origin.
Yes, man, the dream that shifted it all.
It wasn't a swear word. It didn't shit everything. It shifted everything.
Sorry, the coffee is getting me a little excited. I'm just passing certain letters up. Yeah, and it really was around the time we got connected. And I don't know if you remember this, but on our first call together, and I was like, dude, I don't want to speak too soon, but I think you and I are going to do something together. You remember that?
I do. And I remember our first call, and also, so like the origin of the origin story.
Yeah.
I just saw, we were in an online group together, and I saw a picture of this guy, and I was like, I think I want to get to know that guy. I mean, it was literally that. And so you talk about how God pulls people together. And I reached out and just said, hey, how's it going? And we just had a phone call. I mean, I definitely feel that was God calling us together.
100%. And I'm on that call, I was like, I'm like, dude, this is really weird. Because usually I don't know you. Like, we just met each other through this group.
Yeah.
But just something was just kind of had my walls down. And it was odd, but it felt cool. Like, I've known you for a long time. Like, I felt like that familiarity with you. And like I said at the end of the call, I'm like, I think we're going to do something big together.
Yeah.
And then that was that. Like, I had no idea what it was going to be. But I have this feeling like we're going to collaborate on something big together.
So you started
years later.
So you started dropping this dream in that call.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely had your guard down, and I'm just gonna say, like, I have this experience of being comforting. I'm a person that, like, you weren't the first person that said, like, oh, I feel like I can talk to you.
Yeah. Intellectually, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, it's because that's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he does for a living. Of course, I'm gonna feel safe.
Yeah.
Because that's a dude's career. Like, that's what he spent his time learning and mastering. And before that call even happened, it was one of those, like, I had a dream. And if you guys want the full story, I was interviewed on another podcast just actually recently. It was live, streamed live on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can post the link somewhere in the show notes. But that was about an hour interview, and that really got into the depth of who I am and what I've been through and everything that's kind of led to where we are today. But the more like detailed stuff that, I know I kind of sprinkle here and there on the podcast, but this was actually chronologically my story. So this is the part where we're jumping in is I had this dream, and in this dream, we're recording right now, if you're watching, in my home office, in our home office. And all over this office, you could see this painting here my buddy did for me. And I have like my accolades and all these different things on the walls, things I've accomplished in business, different events I've been invited to, and all these different things. And so the walls are kind of filled with all these, like, it's my trophy room ish type of thing. And in this dream, I was outside looking in, and this office was on fire. Like, it wasn't just any kind of fire. It was like jet fuel, like bursting out the windows type fire. And we're outside watching, and I'm like, I don't know how it started. And in this dream, I'm like, no, like everything's gonna burn. All the business documents, all the files, all the things I need to save, the painting, all these things are burning. And we're just outside looking in, and everything is on fire. So you fast forward, all of a sudden the fire's done, and we're able to come back inside and come into the office. And right when I walk into the office in the dream, everything on the walls are gone. Everything is bare, and all you see are just the fire marks. Right, everything is burnt. Everything's gone. But in the middle of the office, the only thing standing was my desk, this exact desk I'm still on, and this computer
Yeah.
that I'm using right now, totally untouched by the fire. No damage, no soot, no nothing. Doesn't even look like it was in the room. But everything else was burnt down, and this was the only thing that stayed. Now, I don't know why that dream felt so real the way it did, but I woke up and I just had to write it down.
Mhm.
Actually type it out. Like, it was one of those, like, oh, where's my phone? I need to just type. And I'm just like trying to get every detail, capture every thought. And I'm like, there was something about that dream that was just different.
I'm pretty sure you sent that to me too. I think I
I
remember
did.
receiving that.
I did. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Because at the time, I'm like, I'm not sure what to take of it, but I'm like, let me send it to a couple people or read it. Either I sent it to them or I read it to them, to people that I trust. I think there's just something deeper about this dream. There's just more to it that I'm like, I'm not seeing or I'm not fully grasping right now. And after a while, people who I've read it to or sent it to got back to me, and they're like, well, first off, what do you think the dream means? And I told them, I think God's kind of telling me to burn everything
Yeah,
down,
burn
like
it down.
burn it all down and just focus on him. And every person who I sent that to had a very similar response, in a sense of burn it all down, focus on him. And at the time, I had equity in about 6 different companies, and that was the path I was headed towards. And yet I was still unhappy. And I was like, is that what you mean by burn it all down? And it was like a long 6 month battle. And eventually I'm like, okay, I came to a place of surrender. I was so unhappy. So like, I'm like, ugh. It was like, I'm fighting this dream. Like, I don't want to do it, but I'm like, I feel like, God, if this is what you're calling, then I feel like I have to do it. So I released the equity, and then, I had no plan after that. No plan after that. And then God, through Samuel, this is the really funny part. He's like, hey, I noticed that you're from Redwood, California. You were born in Redwood, California. I was like, yeah. What's it to you? And then
That
he's
sounds
like, what
like
do
me.
you? Yeah, literally. And I was like, that's an odd question. I'm like, but he's like, Samuel goes, what do you know about redwood trees? And I was like, nothing. I just know they're big as hell. So at this part, I want to throw it back to Samuel, because this is when he changed the game for me. And I want you guys to hear it from him. What is the significance of redwood trees?
Yeah, so with that dream, what was happening for me is I had just visited John Muir Woods in California, and had seen the redwoods. And you can thank my daughter for that, because she wanted to see them in the sequoias, which we got to see. I'm from Pennsylvania, so we don't have trees that tall, but we do have the old fir tree forest that's very close to me. Let's hear it for that.
There you
Anyways,
go.
these redwoods require fire to grow. And it just seemed significant that this dream about burning everything down, and Angelo being from Redwood. And so I shared with him about, first of all, they're the tallest trees out there, and they require fire or flood. They require significant stress to release their seeds. Now those seeds will release all the time, but in order for them to germinate and open. In addition to that, redwoods are incredibly fire resistant. Just naturally, you'll see redwoods are burnt all the time, and they continue to grow. So their leaves are pretty high, and their bottoms are just, sometimes charred and scorched, but they continue to survive, and the undergrowth will die. The other piece that I shared with Angela about this is, you would think, right, just naturally, you would think that redwood trees are in these really super deep root structure because they're so tall. We remember back second, third grade that trees are nearly as tall below as they are high. And that is not the case for redwoods whatsoever. Redwoods always grow in circles because their roots connect to each other. They lean on each other for support in order to be so strong and so tall, because their root structure actually isn't that deep. But when you put all of their root structures together, they're stronger in numbers. So that's what I got.
I remember you saying that to me, and I was like, it was like my jaw hitting the ground. I was like, what? Because the whole time as he was saying that, even hearing it again, it just gets me excited because I'm like, wait. That is life. In the minute to
Life for
2 minutes you
brotherhood.
described all that, that is life, right? That is life. That is brotherhood. Like you need stress in order for the seed to open up. You need fire, you need flood. Like, yes, life you need to be tested. You need some kind of stress to open that up. The roots grow and intertwine with each other, so you can't pull one out without
That's
pulling
right.
the rest out. Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, so when he told me that, after we got off the call, I literally just sat in my desk for a little bit, and I'm like, I think there's something here. I really think I'm like that. I think there's something here. Then I don't know how long it took, but maybe a month or so later, not even, I was like, hey, what do you think of the name Operation Redwood? That we're going to start off doing like a podcast. I think there's something here that men need to hear in terms of like the conversations that we're having. Because at that time, right now, I've released equity. The only other thing outside of being a dad and being a husband that I'm in charge of now is I was the head of security for a church, and in that role, I was able to have a lot of deep, meaningful conversations with men around manhood and masculinity, and what does it mean to be a man. Like, yeah, we're supposed to be the protectors, the guardians of this church, right? But there's something missing. And almost every guy I talked to on that team agreed that they felt that they were the only one. And I'm like, see, that's wrong. You're not the only one. There's other guys here. There's other guys hurting too. And they felt alone. They felt like, maybe they're the messed up one. They're the crazy one in like in this crowded church. They're the only one that's different. So I'm like, okay, this idea of the Redwood and this brotherhood came together. And that was really the origin story. Like, we need to have conversations around masculinity and stop trying to redefine, but restore what a man is supposed to be, who a man is called to be. Because a lot of us don't know. We all may have had good or well-intentioned dads, but even they weren't fully taught what it means to be a man. What does it mean to be a man? And that's something we wanted to explore. So we started down that path, started off as a podcast. Then we started meeting, a little bit more regularly. And it started with just Alfredo and I. And then, Brian came shortly after. And for a while, it was just us three. And then Samuel would come, online, and we would interview him. And then eventually it just started to grow. more and more men started coming in, more and more men started joining the conversations, which now, we have our Wednesday morning men's group calls. So that all came from that dream and the idea that you elaborated on, which was the Redwoods.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw out a little bit, and I'm sure you're going to elaborate more on this, but we were talking with a friend of Angelo's, Guillermo, and he was talking about being a guardian. And just saying how everything ties together and how God creates purpose. Redwoods are the guardians of the forest. It's one of the things that they're called.
Dude, you're giving me chills, bro. I love that part.
So it all ties together. So our origin story for Operation Redwood coalesces around being a guardian in the
Mm.
ways, and I'm going to throw this back to you in a minute because I'd like you to elaborate on it. But what it means for me to be a guardian is restoring manhood first. Because if you don't know what it is that it means to be a godly and God-fearing man, you're going to be lost. And you aren't going to know how to be a guardian for kids, first for your own children, for your own family, and then for children that are hurting and suffering in this world. And I would love us as a group ultimately to be a place where we didn't have to rescue children anymore because families were doing such a great job. But that's where I see us being guardians of manhood that leads to restoring families in order to rescue kids. Would you pick that up? Take off from there?
That was beautifully said. It breaks my heart when I think about this whole idea of rescuing kids, because people don't realize how massive of an industry trafficking really is. It's and the United States being its number one consumer. It's freaking wild. So I feel like, and we've mentioned this on a few podcasts before, our desires are by design. That there's a reason why we desire certain things. There's a reason why we're wired to think a certain way or to want a certain thing. I think there's a reason to it, right? Um, it's not just I want the things I want and Samuel wants the things that he wants. I think there's actually a reasoning behind some of that. I think because we were masterfully created and designed that way to desire a certain thing. And for whatever reason, whenever I hear about women and children who are taken advantage of, that's like my boil bloods. My blood boils. I can't even speak clearly. My boil bloods. Look at that. Like my mind just gets
Yeah.
I get angry. I get really angry. And it's like when I was on the streets, yeah, I could somewhat rescue them. I could step in
Yeah.
and protect them. But now that I'm not able to do that and in the same way, I'm like, there's kids need to be protected. So there's this when I think of guardian, protector is the word. Protector is the word. And pretty soon we're gonna have my buddy Guillermo here, and he's gonna talk about a little bit of when he explained it to me. I'm gonna let him explain it when he's here, but he was like, we talk about being a warrior all the time. But he's like, now I don't see it as that, because warriors, they go into other countries and they burn things down, they pillage and they take over. A guardian is a protector. A guardian is a preserver. And I'm like, ooh. And it's almost, and I'm not even trying to get into semantics, and people are like, oh my God, well, not really, right? But it's like, you could see there's a different approach to it. And then when we do a little bit more research and we find out that the redwood trees are known as the guardians of the forest, I'm like, Jesus, like, oh, come on. Like the
Yeah.
timing just couldn't be any better. But this whole idea of what we're trying to do, just as Samuel said, to restore manhood at its core. We believe if we can restore manhood, that it's a two-pronged attack, right? Restoring manhood is one, and then the rescue and rehabilitation of women and children is the other. If we can get to the hearts of men and shift the hearts of men and bring Jesus to the world, then homes will be restored. Better men, better husbands, better fathers, better leaders, better communities, right? Not to take away from women whatsoever. But if God is calling men to be the head of the household, because that's what it says in the Bible, right? Then if he does what he's supposed to do, who he's supposed to be, then the house will be set. Then children will be rescued. Won't need to be rescued, I should say. Because a lot of this stuff, it does stem from porn. Like, agree or disagree, whatever you guys want to say, do the research, you'll find out for yourself. Trafficking, a lot of that stems from the porn industry.
And I'll take it a step backwards if you don't mind. I agree fully with you. The stem of that, the root of that is weakness in men because they
Mm-hmm.
won't stand up and won't go after and pursue truth, pursue a godly woman, pursue. It's the easy way out. Porn is the easy way out. Porn is taking advantage and taking what you think you can have without any consequence.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. Porn is the problem. That's the result of the core of men's weakness.
It is. It's just a lot of like short term gratification, right? It's like you have this big wound, and instead of actually tending to it
That's right.
and making it better and stitching it up, you're just trying to put a short term, like, let me feel good now type of thing.
Which is why we need to restore manhood, right? Because
Exactly.
they're misguided notions and ideas about power and
Mm.
identity and what's ours for the taking and what isn't, etc.
And just like I love how we're here, and as we're wrapping up, it's such a beautiful place to be because everything we've been talking about with the porn and all these things, it's taught men to be short term thinking. Their long term thinking, their vision is so
Right.
unclear. They have no vision. Like I'll
Correct.
just say it. Most men do not have a vision of who they're trying to be. They have no long term goal of who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. So what happens if you don't have a long term goal or a long term vision? You do all short term things. You feel good now. You feel good now. You want
Yeah.
pleasure now, and it's just now, now, now. All short term.
And without a vision, the people perish.
That is in the Bible. I appreciate you allowing me to share
Yeah.
my story, a little bit of this origin. And I just appreciate you in general, man, because you are a big reason, like literally, for the name of Operation Redwood, for the idea. And I think God definitely used you as a mouthpiece to plant that seed. And now, like, look at where we are,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
And
know?
it's the purpose of everything that we do. And I sincerely hope that we continue to revisit this core. And I would encourage our listeners, if you think we're getting off track, to call us out and say, "Hey, what about your core tenets? What about rescuing manhood, rescuing kids, restoring manhood, rescuing kids, and rebuilding families?" Because if we're not doing that, we've lost our vision.
And just for everyone who has been following us for a long time, we are officially a nonprofit organization. We are 1C3 status, that is pending. But now, and all this stuff is just jargon, right? But now what's going to happen is because we're a nonprofit, I'm going to be the executive director, and my boy Samuel here is going to be the president, rightfully so,
It's public.
of
It's public now.
it's public now, of Operation Redwood Foundation. That is our nonprofit, and we are excited where God is taking this and seeing, the different men we're going to be able to help moving forward, and the hearts we're going to be able to change, and really uh, the ability to rescue more kids. So lots of things happening in the background that you guys are slowly getting bits and pieces of, but we're out here grinding. This is not just a weekly show that we do here. This is the fun part. There's plenty of other not
Yeah,
so fun parts that need to be done, but we're doing it. So I appreciate you, brother.
of course.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I'll see you tomorrow morning for our men's group.
All right. We'll see you
And
then.
I'll see you guys, hopefully,
That's right.
we'll see you guys there. Facebook.com/Operation Redwood. Oh, wait, Facebook.com/groups/Operation Redwood. Get into the men's group.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.